Calling Graham Nash, mobile.
Michael.
Hey, Graham, how are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
Living the dream, my friend. Living the dream. I'm excited. October 10th, you'll be playing the Flint. It's going to be a great night. I've kind of peeked at your set list. You got a little bit of everything in there. I know you got a new band, some young bucks in there playing with you, and I'm sure keeping you on your toes. But you're playing a little bit of everything, and I kind of want to start out by asking you if we can go back a little bit. I want to talk about the very first time that you heard David Crosby and Stephen Stills singing "You Don't Have to Cry."
That was in Joni's living room. I was in London the night before playing the last show with the Hollies, and the very next day I flew to Los Angeles to be with Joni. I took a yellow cab from the LAX, and it took me up to Lookout Mountain in Laurel Canyon to Joni's parking lot. And when I got there, there were other voices, and that kind of was not great for me. I just wanted to spend the 4 days that I had with Joni. Anyway, it was David and Stephen, and they were having dinner with John. And after dinner, we smoked a big one, and David said, "Hey, play Willie." That's because I'd known David before when the Byrds came to England, and he came to stay with me in my apartment in England. So I knew David, and I didn't know. I'd met Stephen at a party at Peter Tosh's house up on Mulholland, but he was, there were, 100 people there. I didn't get a chance to hang with him. But anyway, in Joni's living room, David says, "Hey, play Willie, that song that we were singing." Now, obviously, the Buffalo Springfield had broken up, and David had been thrown out the Byrds, and they were trying to get like an Everly Brothers thing together as a duo. And they sang "You Don't Have to Cry," and they got to the end of it, and I said, "Holy shit, Stephen, that's a fantastic song. That's really beautiful." I said, "Do me a favor, play it one more time." So they looked at each other and they shrugged and they did it a second time. And when they got to the end, they said, "Okay, you know me. You know I'm a harmony guy. I've learned the words. I know how Stephen is going to extend a note at the end of a phrase. I know your body language, David. I know I know it. Yeah. Do it one more time." And I must confess that 45 seconds, less than a minute, when I added my voice, we had to stop and laugh because we had never heard anything like this. I mean, anyone can sing the same notes as us. That's not a big mystery. But you can't sound like us when we put our voices together. And it was at that moment that I decided that I would have to go back to England and leave my band, the Hollies.
I was just going to say, was that as soon as you did that first minute or so of the song, you were like, "Well, there goes the Hollies. I'm going to go to America and follow this," which is divine intervention,
Very much so, but that's exactly what happened. And it was a little sad for me, because Alan Clark, I'd grown up with Alan since he was 6, and but I had to do it because I'm a musician, and when I heard that sound, I wanted it, and we all wanted it. David and Stephen and me, we all realized what happened, and so did Joni. I mean, she was right there listening to it, and she was the only witness to the very birth of Crosby, Stills and Nash. Now I know Stephen says, "Oh well, it was at Cassie's house the night before Joni." I said, "No, it couldn't be because I was in London."
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah. How could I be in two places at the same time? I mean, I've tried to do many things in my life, but to be in two places at the same time, I have not ever accomplished that yet.
Yeah. But and so I want to keep talking about Joni, if you don't mind. I want to take you back to falling in love at first sight at a party in Ottawa, Ontario, which is right by where I grew up. And that moment in time, my friend, that might have led to my very most favorite song of all time, which is A Case of You.
Yeah, I living with Joni was wonderful in my life. We were completely in love, even from that time meeting her in Ottawa. She took me back to the Chateau Laurier there, and she was just after a show, and played me like 18 of the most beautiful songs I'd ever heard in my life. I was in love from that moment.
Isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful.
Yeah.
You still send her flowers on her birthday every year, don't you?
Every single year.
So, Graham, I want to tell you something. I've always said when a couple shares a romantic experience together and then they break up, but they remain friends, it's one of two things. They're either still in love or they never were. Obviously, you're still in love with Joni Mitchell, are you not?
There's no way that you can't be in love with Joni Mitchell if you've lived with her. There's no way. Now then, love changes. Obviously, I'm married now, and I was married before and had 3 children with my ex-wife Susan, and Amy and I have been married now almost 6 years, and yes, of course, but I've been in love with Joni all my life.
What a beautiful thing. I kind of have too, but just through her music. I didn't have the close intimacy that you have, but yet I feel like I've shared intimacy just by absorbing her songs.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What a beautiful, beautiful soul. And how about Mama Cass? Was Cass Elliot the first one to ever turn you on to weed?
No, it was Crosby.
Okay. All right.
But it was at Cass's house.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why on every single album that we have made, apart from this new one of CSNY, which comes out October 25th, it's live from the Fillmore East in 1969.
Yeah, you could.
2 weeks after Woodstock.
Wow.
We have given credit to Cass on every single album.
Yeah.
Because she brought us all together. I think that she knew in her mind what David and Stephen were missing.
All the years, all the work with these guys, David Crosby, I've always felt like David Crosby. I think of him as a guy who was the sneaky musician. Because, how many different ways did he tune his guitar? I can't play one of your songs.
It was very funny, but when we did the music of CSN at Carnegie Hall about 6 months ago, a really great guitar player couldn't play Guinevere.
And listen, and thank you for saying that, because I'm an awful guitar player, and I would never be able to play that. But it is the tuning, isn't it?
It's the tuning, yeah.
Sneaky, sneaky man.
Sneaky indeed.
Let's talk a little more about Live at the Fillmore East, 1969. You can pre-order it now. Unreleased live recording, and I never thought about the fact that that was right after Woodstock. So what was your mindset? What was the vibe? And that's
I think the vibe is very obviously on the tape. When you hear it, you will realize how much we loved each other, how much we were thrilled to be making this new kind of music, and how much we loved playing with Neil. Because the acoustic side of the album is just us, the 3 of us. And we laugh in the middle of songs because we were so happy about what we had just done. The note before. And then, of course, when we added Neil, I think Neil really loves this record. And he thinks that it's the best Down by the River that's been on record.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I'm really bummed out because I was going to see Neil play this past summer at the Blues Fest in Ottawa, actually, of all places. But then, he
got sick.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I obviously wish the best for him, but I was.
Yes, me too.
So going back to now your show that's coming up here at the Flynn. And again, I don't want to give anything away. I'm not going to I hate when people reveal set lists, but I do want to honor the fact that you're playing some Hollies. You're playing a lot of the CSN stuff and solo stuff as well. How do you pick the songs?
Well, I know that certain people, in the audience want certain things, and I have to include them. But like I said before, singing them as passionately as I did when I wrote them. They want to hear our house. They want to hear Teacher Children. They want to hear Military Madness. They want to hear Immigration Man, And it struck me earlier in the tour just how relevant those songs are right now.
And you've done this for a couple of years, maybe 50 or so, where you've written a couple of songs, political songs to call out people, and at the same time, songs of great hope. Teach Your Children is such a beautiful song. And I'll tell you, every time I'm standing in a line at a grocery store and there's a little baby in the cart in front of me and I start making googly eyes at the baby and the baby starts giggling and smiling and I'm like, we've just shared this experience without saying a word, this moment of love. And to me, that's what Teach Your Children is kind of all about.
Very much so. And, I talk about that on how we got there on my tour. I talked about the four of us being in the studio in San Francisco recording Deja Vu. And there were 3 studios in the Wally Heider studios, and the Grateful Dead were in one, and we were in another, and the Jefferson Airplane were in another, all at the same time. And the fact that me and Stephen had made a rough track of Teacher Children with 2 acoustic guitars, and some bass that Stephen put on there. And we, when we got to the part where there's supposed to be a solo, both Stephen and Neil said, "Hey, wait a second, we played a lot of electric guitar on this record. Can't we do anything different?" Crosby says, "Hey, I hear my friend Jerry Garcia is just learning to play pedal steel. Maybe he could do something." So we made a rough 2-track of Teacher Children. He took it into the Grateful Dead studio, played it for Jerry, who loved it, who came in and played, and we had the red light going, and played the first time. We got to the end, and I said, "That was just unbelievable, Jerry. The way that you found your way through a song that you've only heard once is magic to me." And he said, "Well, I made a couple of mistakes, and can I do a second track?" And I said, "Absolutely, you can do a second track, but I'm never going to use it." And he said, "What?" So anyway, we did replace the 2 small mistakes that he had made. But, him finding his way on a new instrument through a new song instantly was magic. And I think he made it into a hit.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt, my friend. Listen, October 10th. I know we got to wrap up. You've got things to do here. October 10th, you'll be at the Flynn. Tickets are still available. It's flynnvt.org, FLYNNVT.org. My dear friend, Graham, thank you so much for your time, man.
Hey, everybody. This is Graham Nash from the Hollies and from Crosby, Stills and Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, amazingly. And right now, you're listening to Me on the Point from my dear friend, Michael Mays.
You're the best, my friend. I always appreciate chats with you.
You're very welcome, kid.